It is April 21st, 2020, and Anthony and I are welcoming you to the show. Today, we've got Greg Friedman, CEO of Peachtree, and also Chris Green, CEO of Chesapeake Hospitality, and of course, the one, the only, Jerry Inzerillo, coming to us from somewhere overseas. Looking forward to having a great show today. Anthony Milcuri, if it's 12 o'clock, it must be your time to shine. How you doing today, my man?
How you doing, buddy? I'm really excited about today. We have a lot of great guests, but as you know, Jerry Inzerillo is a big one of the people I look up to, so I can't wait to talk to him. So let's get on with the show, my brother.
Yeah, let's get right into it. All right, today we got Mr. Greg Friedman, and once again, returning to the show, Mr. Chris Green. Gentlemen, so good to see you here today. But before we get going, I do want to ask everybody out there, share this stream. You hear what I'm saying? You're loving the show. You know your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers are going to love it too. So share this stream and get them watching the show alongside with us. And again, just thanks to the good folks at Bartech for their great sponsorship from over the last 3 weeks. They're no longer officially sponsoring right now, but they stepped up. So I want to step up a little bit to them and thank them for doing it. So check them out at buytech.com. All right. So let's get, Jeff, can we get that graphic off the screen right there?
I like it.
You like it? Yeah, boom. Yeah, I liked it too because it was. We wanted to just wait a minute and reveal Chris's new haircut. So forget talking about PPP and all the other stuff out there. We want to really focus on your exciting new look. So your daughters took care of you. Is that what?
Yeah, I was complaining about it, and I can't stand when it touches my ears. So my daughter said I can take care of it, and this is her solution. Number 3 guard all over, but it feels pretty good. I like it.
You look good.
I love it. All right. So, Greg, welcome to the show. You're brand new with us here today. We haven't had you on the show, but to be fair, I've known you for many, many years. I think Bruce Ford introduced us about 15, 20 years ago or something. So we've been on each other's radar for a long time. Greg, what is going on with your company right now? I'd love to get a general update and then get into some of the specifics about what you're experiencing.
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me on the show. And it's great to see you again, Glenn. And it's, from a standpoint of my company today, it's obviously, challenging times out there, just given everything that's happening. So it's been a really tough environment over the last 30 to 45 days. But it's, fortunately for us, we were able to get some funding from the PPP. And so we're excited about that piece of it and, really happy with all the bipartisan support of the PPP program. And we hope that there's additional funding coming down the road from it, because I do think it's one of those things that there's not enough capital, from the program. It's great that we're doing 2.5 times of our monthly payroll right now, but unfortunately, we're not in a position at most of our hotels today, which we currently operate about 50 hotels across the U.S. that we own, on the equity side, and then we've got another 70 assets that we have debt positions on. But when you look across our portfolio today, which is all select service, limited service, and some smaller full service hotels, they're all running, in that 15 to 20% occupancy level range for the most part. And it's really tough to start bringing back all the staffing today. So I do think we need, a lot more flexibility on what we can spend the money from the PPP, as well as, additional dollars, because I think this is going to be a little bit longer term than what most people, realize at this point, from a standpoint of just the limit on travel.
Well, I'm really glad you said that. I don't know if that's me. Is that better?
That's much better.
Yeah. I'm really glad you said that, because you're on mute, my friend Glenn.
I know. I was going to say I liked it better when you were muted, but ironically, I was muted. Joke's on me. Go for it, Anthony.
I'm really glad you said that. I think we're facing the reality right now. This is long term. All right. And it's just going to be in stages, and everything from the way we clean rooms, the way we greet guests, the way we finance, the way we develop, the way we reconfigure our hotels. This is going to be long term. And every week it seems that we get more and more cemented in our thinking, whereas the first 2 or 3 weeks we weren't sure, 4th week we weren't sure. And now we're seeing this is going to be a long term. And then once we start getting our businesses open and running slowly, the economy is going to take a hit for a long time. It's not going to be 6 months, 3 months. We're going to be looking at this for 2 years at a minimum, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. So I think we're looking at a good 24 months. I mean, it's going to take probably 24 to 36 months to start getting back to the levels that we saw in 2019 at a minimum, just from my perspective. not all markets are equal. Some markets may recover quicker, but for the most part, I think it's going to be a long, 24 months. And you're going to have additional expenses associated with just making sure your hotels are sanitized. Even when we're getting more occupancy, we're going to have, additional expenses from that perspective, and the cleaning expenses and so forth. So there's just a lot of other elements to this that's going to, take place. And so I think we have a lot of headwinds, but fortunately, I think long term, I think we'll recover, and the hotel business will probably have more guests than ever, down the road. But unfortunately, it's going to take a lot of capital to make it to the other side.
Yeah. Chris, how about you?
Is that me? No.
Nope.
Okay. No, I mean, Greg, they're like I said, Peachtree is a great company. They're smart people. I mean, we're all seeing the same thing. The biggest challenge I see is what I've said before is when we do start seeing business working its way back, you're going to have 30, 40 hotels in a market trying to open and ramp at the same time, which is going to be creating a crazy competitive environment. And we're just going to have to hope that everybody operates smartly and works to move us back to where we were, which was at all-time highs. Otherwise, if we have I would say rogue actors in the marketplace, we could have real challenges in recovery. So,
yep. And I think one of the things, if you do have some cash that you can spare, which not too many people can, is now's the time to order your supplies, because it's going to take a long time. But when 30 people in your market open up, that's not the time to order your supplies, because that's going to slow you down. So if there's spare cash or another loan you can take, or that's going to help you in the long run, it's not going to hurt you. It's going to make you money, not lose your money.
Yeah, yep. Makes a whole lot of sense. So, Greg, you had said that the PPP loan, 2.5 months is enough. We had on Chip Rogers, president and CEO of the AHLA, of course, on the show just last week, and he said they're working very hard to make that a higher multiple out there. And it's looking like, by monitoring the news this morning, that Capitol Hill seems to be getting ready to approve another $450 billion deal over there. I hope that is going to satisfy what you guys out there are looking for right now, to keep those people paid and to get that credit where you're going to need it. What was the process like for you, Greg, getting all of that paperwork done? I know we had to talk to Chris when he was knee deep in it. Was it complicated? Was it okay to go through? Did you think they were asking too much, too little? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I mean, overall, it was pretty streamlined for us. We used one of our banking partners, or one of the banks that we have a really strong relationship with,
right,
that has a lot of our corporate accounts and so forth. So they know our business extremely well. So it made it very easy going through that process, or made it relatively easy. It's never, it's never that easy when you're getting money, but it made it relatively easy. So we didn't have a lot of trouble, getting through that process. And, fortunately, we've gotten, funded for our corporate entities, and we're getting funded here in the next probably 24 hours on our, on all the properties. So it was for us, it was an easy process.
So did you have to go through each individual property to do something separate?
We ended up doing, basically, we had the corporate entities, and then we had our property management company, which effectively applied on behalf of, call it, about 34 of the 50 hotels that we own. And then, just given different nuances that existed at each of the other 16 hotels that we, own and operate, we ended up applying for individual applications on each one of those. Right. But because we were hotels, and because we fell, under the hotel exemption, we were able to, have more than 500 employees.
Right. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, so we've had good success for all of our clients. I mean, we're a third-party manager, primarily, different than Greg's organization. So we assisted our third-party clients to get them through the process. Most of them, if not all, have been funded at this point. So we had good success. And I think there's really a need to continue the extension, though. That's what Greg said. The time frame of the 8 weeks of payroll, now is not the time to spend it, because right now people are out on unemployment because we had to put them out, and we don't look like business is coming back in 8 weeks. So it's difficult. You want to bring them back, but you also want to have something for them to do. It'd be better if they extended the time, like 6 months, 7 months, to use the funds instead of 8 weeks.
So. Oh, interesting. So what you're saying is you have this money, but it's not really practical for you to deploy it right now because you don't really have the staff there. So it's kind of like this weird catch-22 where you got to use the money, but you can't really use the money right now.
If you want it to be forgiven, the covenants of the loan require that 75% of the money be used for payroll and other benefits associated with it, and you don't have the payroll to spend it on right now. I guess, Greg, that's what you're seeing too, right?
So. Exactly. It's seeing the exact same thing, which I think they need to, revisit that 75% and maybe lower it to 50%. Goes towards payroll. The other 50% can go towards other covered costs. I think they should look at expanding out the covered costs too, because I do think it's, the mortgage expense is one piece that you can, and we don't have really rent expense for most hotels, at least. You don't have rent expense, but you can use it towards utilities, mortgage expense, and payroll. But it'd be nice to cover some other expenses as well. So I think it's one of these where you don't want to get saddled up with debt that you have to pay back, and if it's forgivable, that's the best part of the program. But if you end up not being able to spend the money for the forgivable items, all you're doing is incurring more debt that you're gonna have to pay back, towards the end of the road. So.
Yeah, I think that this was put in, as a stopgap, and I think this is all going to work itself out in the end term, because there's not a person I'm speaking to that's not saying the same thing. It's funny because the people that got some of the money, you can see their demeanor is a lot lighter and better, and the people who haven't look like they're hanging on to for dear life. And once everyone gets the money, or most people get the money, I think they're going to soften the terms, because they have to soften the terms. I think it was a stopgap. Just throw it at the wall. Let's just get people money, and now let's figure it out. And I think that was the right thing to do. Just get it out there, do something, because if you remember 3 weeks ago, everyone was about to walk into Washington and just start opening up the safe. And so I think that in a couple of weeks, you're going to start seeing those provisions change, and some of those things extended or completely deleted or improved. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you're right. Now, Michael Schindler says the idea of the PPP is to force employers to bring back the people who have been furloughed, layoff, etc. That I understand, but really, aren't we just talking about the government paying you, the employee, either one way or another, either through your companies, gentlemen, or just through the unemployment mechanism anyway? So what really is the difference to the government at the end of the day with their bottom line if they just push this forward and allow you to bring people back when you can actually open your hotels in a meaningful way?
Listen, we talked about this yesterday for about an hour on our board meeting, because we want to take care of our people. So if we get the funds and we bring them back now, and heaven forbid that COVID-19 expends out way far, if we bring people back now and then in 6-8 weeks we have no business, then we're going to lay them off again or furlough them again. That's not good either for the system or for them.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out the right answer. I understand what it was made to do. The problem is the time frame wasn't long enough.
And those people arguing, saying, well, it's meant to have people put back to work. Yes, but if you have nothing for them to do, it doesn't make any sense. The program is broken, and it has to be fixed. It's just common sense.
Right. We got a question. Ooh, Mukesh Malji is calling me right now. Mukesh, watch the show, share the show, and all of you out there, share the show as well. For both of you guys, for the loans, can you tell us where the majority of that money is going to? Room renovations, mortgages, vendor payments, team member training prior to reopening? Any ideas what you would or can do with that facility? Greg?
So this is in regards to the PPP?
I would guess the 25%.
Yeah, the 25%. I mean, it's going towards, mortgage payments effectively. That's where you're going to spend it. Yeah, mortgage payments or utilities. So,
right. Same thing.
That'll eat it all up. The 25%. We built our accounting team built a calculator for every asset that we have on what you need to spend over here to be able to spend the 25% over here. And so normally the mortgage and maybe a little utilities eats all of that 25% up.
Yep.
Interesting.
I think, Greg's got Greg has a unique perspective because they have debt on hotels too, right, Greg? So
we do.
You're seeing all sides of this. How is that for you guys?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting view, just from a standpoint that, we've got all these different borrowers where we have first mortgage loans on different hotels, and we're having to, we're effectively doing the same thing where we're going in and deferring out payments, trying to work with our borrowers to make sure they can be in a position to make it to the other side as well. So it's trying to help them shore up liquidity where they can, and making sure that they've applied for the for the PPP, but also trying to be as friendly as we can be given the current situations.
Sure. Complex thing you're sitting in.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's
all right. So, moving on. When things do start to come back, what segments do you think will be the strongest when we come out. It's interesting because I'm hearing back channel that one of the major luxury firms, one of the major luxury hotel companies has laid off 75% of their staff, including some of their top executives, because they really don't think things are going to be coming back in that segment for quite some time. How do you gentlemen see it, Greg?
Yeah. So I mean, first off, I think select service is going to come back the quickest, because I do think transient travel, you're going to see that, come back extremely quick. I think group business, convention business is going to be conference business is going to be really slow to come back. So I think a lot of the full service hotels, especially that have a lot of meeting space, are going to struggle over the next 12 to 18 months, and depending on what happens. So I think that's going to take the longest to come back is the full service hotels. I think the luxury hotels, it's sort of interesting just because I do think the current environment, and no one knows what's going to happen over the next 60 to 180 days, but assuming, because we're in a recession at this point in time, depending on how deep this recession really goes, and everyone has different opinions, I do think there's a certain segment that may not be as impacted during this recession as we've seen in the past two, economic downturns. So when you look at 9/11, and you look at the Great Recession 2008, I do have probably, and again, we don't own any luxury hotels, but I'm a little bit optimistic once there is some level of comfort that you can travel safely around COVID-19. I think the luxury segment, I think there's pent up demand for people to get out and take vacations, and I think that luxury segment, the individuals that use those hotels, I think a lot of their wealth is still intact. Although the public entities have been impacted some, I think they have money to go spend still.
Yeah, I agree with that. Ooh, that sounds really weird. I totally agree with that assessment there. But Chris, you've got hotels that are full service hotels with that meeting space component. That's got to be giving you some agita. Where do you see the first fruits of recovery coming back for you?
Yeah, so we were tracking that, and Greg's right. I mean, our more select style stuff is doing better. Most of the stuff that we see traveling right now is contract or supply chain business, right? So a lot of that lends itself to the select service segment. I think that a lot of the full service hotels are going to be operating a lot like select service. We've been talking about ramp up strategies where we open 100 rooms of 318 rooms in a tower, and we're effectively a competitor. If I've got a Hilton flagged hotel in a market with a Hampton, but I may be a DoubleTree or whatever, but I'm initially going to be operating and ramping up like a select serve to make sure I can compete until we build back to regular occupancies. It's going to be tough. Weddings are moving. People are still wanting to do these things. They just don't know when they can. So we have weddings moving to really, a lot of people are going same date next year. Meetings are going to same date next year. Not very much is moving to the fall of this year. They're really just very hesitant for full service meetings.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because I think in the first volley that we saw of postponements was thinking that we were going to get back on our feet relatively quickly. Every single week we are in this, it seems like that's going to be much more difficult to do the rebound. I'm starting to get real concerned. We talked about that, my opinion on the show, that I'm seeing maybe post Labor Day as a psychological reset date for a lot of people at this point. So that's a worry that I have. Chris, you're saying that you're seeing meetings and events moving to that same date next year. That prevents you from selling that date next year. So we're really talking about, even though things are being postponed, they might as well be considered cancellations, because you're never going to see that
not
money
this year.
realistically.
Not this year.
But
Anthony,
on one hand, it's obviously horrible news. On the other hand, it's good news, because at least you know what to plan for, and you're not getting these last minute cancellations. So you're bringing on employees, you're bringing on expenses, and then you have to let everybody go, because at the last minute people cancel because they're concerned about whether it be the virus or funding, or people in their company are not concerned. So at least now you know what to plan for, and you know where to try to get your other business. So it's terrible, but on the other hand, at least you see it, and you can plan for it. And the good news is maybe some of those businesses will decide to, hey, let's move it up. Things got better quicker, and maybe you get that piece of business back. You don't know, but I think it's better to be able to plan than to guess if these people are going to cancel. I think that, and the word is agita, not agita, my Jewish friend. the agita that you would have is a lot worse not knowing how to plan.
Forgive me if my Long Island accent was making it seem as if I don't know how to pronounce words.
Okay.
Properly.
Just don't say pork butt today, okay? All right.
First of all, that hurts my feelings because that pork shoulder that I smoked for 13 hours was excellent, and I want everybody to know we had great pork enchiladas last night from that as well. So, thank you for allowing me to plug my pork shoulder, Anthony.
So what is the mindset right now for both of you guys on your executive team? The people, like, are they feeling that, wow, should I maybe be looking at a different industry? Should I be looking at a different job? Am I going to get furloughed? Like, what is because I'm getting a lot of that from a lot of high level executives that they're like, I might be retiring this year because, I don't think my job's coming back. I mean, what are you feeling? What are you hearing?
Yeah. So within our team, so we've got, north of, call it about 100 corporate team members, across our different companies.
Wow.
And then we've got about 1,600 or so, team members out at the different hotels that we operate. But within our corporate office, I think I think really just given our culture and everything else, I think, the spirits are pretty high given what we're faced up against. I think no one's naive to the challenges that we face right now. As a company, we did, take some corporate, cuts on expenses. Some of that meant, fortunately, we didn't furlough off a bunch of corporate employees. We did, reduce some hours for, certain people, and we did, have some salary cuts and so forth across the board for everybody. But I think it was relatively well received, and it's been something that we've done a really good job of just constantly. And I've really made it, through this crisis, made it, a big priority to constantly communicate with everybody. So we've been doing these town hall meetings every 2 weeks, virtually, just given that everybody's working remotely, we're constantly having senior leadership calls, with everybody that runs different divisions or different groups. So it's constantly communicating, letting everyone know where everything sort of stands so no one's caught off guard if something does change. So, because the situation is fluid given everything that's happening, but I think overall we feel, I feel very bullish. I feel like if you talk to our team, I think they all feel very bullish that we're going to, make it to the other side. And because of that, I think the spirits just within our corporate office, as well as even our hotels that I've walked recently,
Right.
It seems like, GMs and our EOSs and, some of the team members that are still working, everyone seems to have a very positive outlook, towards a very challenging situation.
Anthony,
Do you think you're going to start? That's not me, my friend. That sounds like your pork shoulder coming back.
me myself.
Do you think that I'm starting to see management companies close shop? Are you going to start seeing a lot of people merging? Where are we? Are there any major management companies on the brink right now?
I think it's going to be extremely challenging for a lot of management companies, because I do think, again, anyone that's, especially management companies, anyone that owns hotels, there's a lot of capital that's going to be needed to make it to the other side. And it's, and be in a position where they can actually just break even as a company going forward and so forth, if they keep their same staffing levels, if it's a management company. I think you're going to see a lot of consolidation, is my personal opinion. I think you'll see a lot of companies that are, after going through this type of scenario, the senior management team may just get to a point where they're tired, and this is a good, time for them to, look to potentially sell their management company, or, potentially merge with another management company where they just don't have the stomach, because, this is, this has been a pretty challenging event, and it's been pretty quick, but, and that's all predicated on that there's not a quick recovery here, which I don't think it's going to be. Although I'm optimistic that, we'll get to the other side of this, relatively quick. It's not, once we get to the other side, and I keep saying that, it's not like we're going to turn back and be at 70% occupancy levels.
Right.
I mean, we're going to be at, 40 or 50%. And that's still, we're going to be in a recession. And I think that's going to put even more pressure on people to make decisions. And, I think it's a great time if you're looking to buy management companies or buy hotels. It's going to be a really good, investment environment for that.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know whose speaker that is. Greg's pointing really to the company that I am, right? We're a top 25 manager, the bottom part of the top 25, been around 63 years. And if we weren't well capitalized as a company, we would be in a world of trouble, since our primary income is fee income, and right now there's nearly zero fee income. I think we're, luckily, and I've told you guys before, Chesapeake's a very conservative company, so we're prepared to make it to the other side. We've kept our entire corporate staff intact,
It's
and
amazing.
we're getting them ready to go out, and we think we're going to be well poised to come out the other side. But like I said, if we weren't in good shape capital wise going into this, we would be in a lot of trouble. And so I agree with Greg. I think there's going to be a lot of consolidation, and quite frankly, weathering this is going to burn. If you had some reserves, it's going to burn almost all your reserves. So it's going to be decision time come spring, summer of next year for a lot of companies. I just wonder what it's going to look like.
Are there management companies knocking on your door and say, "Save me"?
Not yet, but I mean, I have friends that are in the similar roles in my peer group that are not in the same shape we are, that are kind of trying to figure it out. That have gone down to maybe 5 employees at the corporate level. So I don't know how that's sustainable, quite frankly. We have 55 total, and they're all still working full time on our hotels. So.
And Chris, I got to assume you're going to have calls from just ownership groups, that own hotels that are not getting the attention from their third-party management company, just given that their staffing has been cut down so much. So I think that's going to be a huge opportunity too, coming out of this, just shifting business. So
I mean, if that's me, I'm real sorry. I don't know how it's me, but yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that we've been around 63 years and we plan to be around 63 more, and have made this commitment to our corporate team and keeping them together, will present opportunities. And I think if everybody in their companies can hang together, that there will be opportunities on the backside, especially when there's consolidation. But that's my hope. I will say that we've signed several deals during the crisis.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, Chris, because you've actually said to me offline, nothing private, but you thrive in the downtimes. Of course, you were never talking about a downtime such as this particular one, but that's an interesting point, that if you're doing everything right, there is opportunity to grow your business in a down market.
Well, yeah, and I hesitate to talk about us too much, but all we've ever done is turnarounds, like deep turn,
Right.
workouts, problems. So, my favorite song is by Garbage. Remember, I'm only happy when it rains. And that's how I live, is when things are troubled, that's when I'm happiest. And our team thrives in it. And I think that you're going to have to be a master turnaround expert right now to come out of this and come out flying. So,
I always say, if you have a really great hotel, don't give it to me because I'll screw it up. So, and I'm serious. No one's ever given me a well-run hotel because they're smart enough to know I'll just screw it up. And there's two things going into a downturn that you need. You need cash and a mindset. And if you have those two things, you're going to come out of it. And you can't, if you have a lot of cash and a bad mindset, you're going to lose all your cash. And if you have no cash and a great mindset, you're going to be, on the street corner, rah, and getting everybody excited with no pants on. So you need both. You need a mindset and cash. And it seems like your company's poised for that. And again, the 10 years that we had of growth, those people that celebrate on the back of a yacht are probably the people that have to sell that yacht right now. And you keep it small, you don't have far to fall. So I commend you, Chris. I commend you, Greg. And I think coming out of this, it's going to be long term, and it's going to be X's and O's. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, I'm just saying. The one thing I was thinking about listening to Greg and really thinking about this is, every time we've gone through it, 9/11 and the Lehman Brothers, we've come out better operators. So I'm fascinated to see what's going to be on the backside of this. I'm not sure I know exactly, but I am fascinated to see what it's going to look like and who's going to take the lead and do really innovative things, because we've gotten better and better every time. That's who we are. We're operators, right? We like to succeed. So,
and not to be negative, but to use an analogy, those to me were accidents that were bad. This was a collision that there weren't some people didn't survive, and I think this car accident is the most serious car accident we've had, and unfortunately there are going to be some people that are just not going to come out of it. And 2 weeks ago I felt differently. I'll be honest with you. I actually said, Glenn probably remembers, I felt that everybody's going to recover from this. Yeah. And that it'll be slow, and there'll be some consolidation, but all in all, and Greg, I'll be honest with you, and Glenn, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're the first person that said recession. I don't think anybody on the show has said we're in a recession. I think it's obvious, but I don't think anyone's used that word. Am I right, Glenn?
Maybe, but for the most part, I guess people really haven't been using it too much because technically you have to have downward growth for 2 quarters in order to do that. So while practically we are in a recession, the legalese around it is we are not officially there, but we are absolutely unequivocally at that point, maybe even worse, which I don't even want to consider at this point. While we're still waiting for Jerry to sign on, Greg, one thing we didn't talk about with you, and I know we had wanted to, is what about hotels that were supposed to open in the last month, the next 90 days, that sort of thing? You're in that situation.
Yeah. So we've got several hotels under construction right now. And a couple of them were supposed to open literally, like we had one that was supposed to open, back at the beginning of April. And then we had another one that was supposed to open, here towards the end of April.
Where are they? Basically, you mentioned what city you're in?
Yeah, sure. So there, one's down in Orlando. So we have one hotel in Orlando, Florida, for instance, another one that's up in St. Augustine, Florida, that was under construction. And we have a project here in Atlanta that was actually under a major renovation where we converted a Hyatt Place hotel to a Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. And all three of those projects, are pretty much delayed the opening until, June of this year. So we've just pushed out the opening.
Yep.
What do you think about Georgia opening?
I think it's interesting. I worry about the safety part of it just because I think a lot of people, I think it's still, COVID-19 is still a real issue. On the flip side, I think businesses need to operate because people, need to make money. There are people that want to work. There are people, small businesses that need to be able to, continue to, beyond just hotels, restaurants and, retail stores that need to be able to operate and feed their families. So, I sort of get it and I can appreciate the decision that's made by our governor. Although I might have, handled it differently, I do see, the value of going ahead and trying it. And if it works out well, I think it could be a roadmap to how a lot of other states, deal with this. So.
Yep. Anthony, I'm just trying to locate Jerry because he hasn't popped on yet. Maybe you could ask the next question.
Okay. And I said the same thing this morning. I was talking to someone and I said, it's a roadmap, but I think what's going to come down to is the citizens. You still got to social distance. You still got to wear your mask. You still got to be clear of what's at risk. And, fortunately or unfortunately, my dear friend is a frontline anesthesiologist, and he's on airway management every day. And if you talk to him, I don't think he would want anything open right now. So there's two. So I'm always talking to two sides every single day. And I think, again, it's responsibility. I know yesterday or 2 days ago, we had warm weather here in New York, and you would have thought in some areas of where I was driving around, I just drove around with my daughter for like 2 hours, just talking and driving, not getting out of the car. And some parts of where I live, you would have thought nothing was going on. In other parts, it looked like it should look. Everybody with masks and gloves and no one near each other. So I think it really comes down to the citizens of Georgia. It's not going to come down to the government. If everyone acts appropriately, I think it's going to be a great roadmap, hopefully.
Yep.
Yeah,
completely agree.
We'll see if
I was
people
shocked.
act appropriately. Sorry, Chris, go on.
No, I was watching the news. I don't normally watch the news late at night. I normally try to go to bed, but I was watching the news at like 10 o'clock, and when it popped on here, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, so Georgia's big news around here, and it just shows you our state of mind. I was like, wow, that seems early, especially what we're hearing. So, especially, movie theaters kind of caught me off guard. I thought, wow, movie theaters, you're right. That caught me off guard a little bit. It's interesting how our psyche has changed in just 38 days. So,
so movie theaters and restaurants and bars are opening as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nail on.
Are they having 50% capacity? What are the rules?
I don't know. I'd have to ask Greg. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know the rules either. It literally just came out yesterday, but like hair salons, nail salons, I think are opening. I think it's pretty much a slew of different.
They are. Everything is pretty much opening either Friday or Monday, with the exception of nightclubs and bars. Those are still on hold for now. But yeah, we will see. I am 2 days away from having not eaten out in a full month already, and that's absolutely unusual for us around here. So I hope that when things do open up down there, people start to get out and about a little bit.
Yeah,
Not too much.
I see us all walking through the airport, just all our business travelers, and all high-fiving each other as we're going through the airport.
I don't know about high-fiving each other, but you know, maybe a little elbow bump or something like that. Or we could bring back. I love the Isaac move from the Love Boat. We could do a whole lot of that. I think. You know. That'll be a good one.
But it's interesting. You know, the road warriors. I think I'll just speak for myself. I can't wait to get on a plane.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't wait to get on a plane and be able to travel again. But I do want to make sure it's safe when I do travel. So that's the one.
But you know, and again, I think the responsibility, like right now, if they say I can get on a plane, and they opened up the plane, and my wife allowed me out of the house, which she won't. But if she did, I would feel comfortable traveling because I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to bring Lysol and Purell, and I'm going to Lysol and Purell everything, and I'm not going to get close to anybody. So
how are you gonna?
The personal responsibility, people got to really take that seriously. I'm sorry, what, Chris? You're going to say something funny. Go ahead.
No, I don't know how you're going to bring Lysol on a plane, like the combustible aerosol. Okay. I don't think you're going to get that through.
Hey, Chris, hold on. You know, as I had control of your screen, you'd be gone right now. You know what I mean. I'll bring Lysol wipes. How's that?
Okay.
All right. No, but it's listen. That's what I am most concerned about for my family, for my friends, for my kids. Is right now everybody's on lockdown. That's easy. Nobody leave. Now, as things open up, Dad, can I go to the beach with my friends? Dad, can I go to the restaurant? It's not a big deal. Dad, can I go back to my college, even though it's not open? You know, we're basically renting a house for her, and you know, and her friends are renting a house with her. It's like, hey, we're going to hang out for a couple of days at the house because we're renting it anyway. We might as well go back up to college and spend a couple of days hanging out. Now, like that, those are the things that terrorize me a little bit. It's like, when is that appropriate? And that's really, to me, going to be a family decision, not so much a government decision, unless you can tell me there's a vaccine and the disease is gone. Yep. So that's the thing that I think as we get out of this, that we're all going to struggle with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Hitesh Patel, the one who's president at Baltimore Management, says we need to get Congress to pass a law on freezing of foreclosures for 6 months to allow hotels to get back on their feet. I do think that we need to start considering something like that at this point, because this is so deep and so painful for everybody. But maybe it's just not that. Maybe restaurants got to get that free pass too. Maybe some of these other businesses as well. I do pity movie theaters, because I don't see how those guys coming back really in a meaningful way anytime soon. Would you guys like to see something like that the government step up for, or would you like to see that with something else, or just something entirely different?
I mean, I think a lot of the regulated banks are, you know, effectively they're stepping up and doing that already with these, you know, deferral of payments. So I think the regulated banks are probably going that direction, it seems like, and allowing, you know, because most of them are allowing, you know, upwards of 90 days, in some cases even more, on deferral of payments. I think, you know, most banks are probably, you know, the banks I'm talking to, at least, I think most of them are expecting potentially they may have to go upwards of 6 months, depending on how this, you know, how this happens. So I think when you look at regulated banks, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I think the issue is going to really sit with a lot of the CMBS lenders. You know, a lot of these, you know, CMBS lenders, the CLOs, the debt funds. I mean, I think that's where the issue is going to exist, where those lenders may not be as patient. Most of the CMBS, the special servicers, from what I've seen so far, most of them, fortunately, we don't have a lot of debt with CMBS lenders, but the little that we do, you know, they're not as easy to work with. And I think that's where a lot of the pain is going to exist. So I think he's, you know, ultimately he should get what he's, you know, asking if he's got debt with, you know, regional banks and community banks and national banks.
Right. So Morty Steinfeld is asking you, Greg, what happens to lenders if there's a 6-month freeze? So let's flip that around a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it puts pressure on lenders. I mean, we're a lender as well. And it impacts, you know, we make money by receiving, you know, interest payments and so forth. So it puts pressure on us, and it ends up creating a situation where, you know, potentially, you know, some lenders may need, you know, some of these debt funds and some of these banks may ultimately need a bailout, depending on, you know, what extent occurs. I mean, I think if it's over the next 90 to 180 days, I think it's manageable. But if it starts going longer term, then, you know, it becomes a bigger issue as well. So,
right. Yeah. Man, is that me? That's weird. I just want to keep doing that to hear that weird
I
echo.
was on mute. It's not me.
No, all right. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Chris. Bad, Chris. You shouldn't have really changed rooms, man. You had that. You had that other room going perfectly. I don't know what the deal is over there. All right. So, what advice do you guys have right now, maybe, Greg, to keep your energy up, to stay positive, to keep focused on the task at hand, and don't allow yourself to get carried away with fear or panic or any of those other kinds of things?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think us as a company, we're trying to use this time, to focus on the other side of this, right? Like there's only so much business out there over the next 30 days. So if you're focused on operating hotels, I mean, it's easy. I mean, you should focus on what's happening today because there's still guests coming through the hotels, but we're trying to be strategic and focus on, 60, 90, 120 days out, and trying to focus on where we can grab, business, where we can maybe shift some business into our hotels that normally in the past we weren't able to get because of, maybe we just didn't have time to go chase that business. Strategically as a company, we've started a lot of different initiatives. So we're using this time to be really strategic. And I think that's a way to keep, sort of keep spirits high versus sitting around focusing on, COVID-19.
Right. So, in that same vein, then, must not be you, Chris. All right, you get a free pass, brother. So, all right. So at that same vein, we had a question a little bit earlier on, but it went off the scroll and I missed the exact thing. So I apologize, whoever asked this question. What are you thinking about in terms of RFPs then for 2021?
They've all been postponed. Yeah, RFPs. Yeah. I mean, most of the brands have postponed the timing, right? And I mean, we'll start looking at them more. I think we have to. The hard part for us is it's a little bit of a wait and see. We're doing what Greg said, right? I think all the good companies are trying to be strategic, and we don't get much time. What I've realized through this is how much of my time and our team's time is taken up by the here and now. Like this is happening in this market, we got to attack that. And so we have way more strategic time now. So we're spending time on that. But RFPs are going to be interesting, especially when you're going to have, the pressure on the corporations that are going to be looking and knowing our situation are going to be looking for some breathing room in their RFPs. And then we're going to want to be getting back to where we were. It's going to be an interesting time. You're muted, Glenn.
Glenn, you're muted, so I'll take over from here. I think you're exactly right. Glenn, you can go now. We're good.
Yeah, it seems that way. I'm just happy I'm talking today because yesterday you did the lion's share of the talking.
Well,
maybe I should mute you.
I get very insecure because you're getting really good. You're really good at this, and Chris is really good at this. So my insecurity is an all-time high. So I got to talk.
I want you to know it's warranted, Anthony.
Let me ask you a question. We're waiting for. Just let me put it out there. We're waiting for Jerry Inzerillo. He's in a much ahead time zone, so we may have gotten our time screwed up. But hopefully,
I think it's 7 hours.
Yeah, hopefully he'll get on. I just texted him and called him.
His
so hopefully
assistant tracking him down.
But in the meantime, what I really think is an important question. Do you feel like, I know your companies are strong and you're doing well, or you're doing the best you can, and you're going to come out of this stronger. But do you feel like you're reinventing your career? Do you feel like you're starting over?
It does feel that way in a weird way. So, I mean, this allows you to, these kind of crises create, a lot of opportunities, and it creates an opportunity to sort of, like you said, reinvent yourself. And I think one thing it allows us to maybe reinvent, because we felt like going into this, we had a really good culture. It's actually made us closer. When you look at our team members and everything, we're probably today more as one family than ever before. And I think it's allowed us to do it. And I think it's Churchill has that saying that, never let a good crisis go to waste. And I think as a company, we've used this, we've sort of used this as a great opportunity to do a lot of things that normally we can't do because you just don't have the time or the downtime to do it. So it's, I think, to answer your question, Anthony, yeah, I think I've reinvented myself to a certain degree.
I know Chris has a haircut, but that quote is one of my favorite quotes. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. And Chris, I would imagine that a lot of your employees and a lot of your executives are having conversations with their friends who have been laid off or furloughed, and they're using you guys as an example. And a lot of their friends are probably saying, "Hey, as soon as you can you get me a gig over there?" Please get me on. And listen, people are going to remember how they were treated. And that doesn't mean companies that furloughed you or laid you off, that it's a company that's not a company of integrity or a good company. What that means was there's a different way they handled their cash. Maybe they bought more assets. Maybe they did something to reinvest in their company, and they just didn't have the cash on hand that you guys did. So it's just a different strategy. So I think, you should give your company a break, as long as they're treating you out with respect. If they had to furlough you or lay you off, but in your situation, it seemed like you had it all plugged in at the right way at the right time, Chris.
Well, listen, this is speaking to having a great team, and I know Greg would be the same way. Our chairman is extremely conservative. Anybody who knows me knows I am not conservative. So that's like we are opposites, but it created great push and pull. He was always pushing for good reserves when I'm always pushing to push. But, I'm so thankful for his conservatism and our cash resources, or else we wouldn't be able to make those decisions. The people that are making those other decisions, Anthony, they're not necessarily wrong. They may have been just taking a different path. I'm just thankful, and I know our team is very thankful that we were able to make this commitment. And quite frankly, we made that commitment to our team on, I think it was March 17th, our corporate team, that we were going to stay the course. Now, that was when I thought it was going to be 45 days. And the question I get, and I know people are watching, is it still the same, Chris, now that this is stretching out? And I'm happy to say that it is, but it doesn't make it makes it harder, not easier, to stay the course if this thing runs a lot longer. It's just going to take more cash.
Absolutely. Yeah. But you're going to have your team together. And to be honest with you, at this point, I think your executives and your employees, I'm just talking for myself. If I was on your team, I'd be like, as soon as you can't pay me anymore, let me know. I'm here anyway. I'm working full time, doing whatever you need. I'm not going anywhere. Because you made a commitment to me. Now I'm going to make a commitment to you. And I think that it goes both ways. And, these are the moments, like you said, these moments people don't forget. They just don't. They're emotional, because there's a lot of moments in our career when we triumph and we win, whether we get a bigger office or we get a bigger salary, or we get CEO, or we get a TV show, whatever it is, we have these moments. Okay. And only the emotional moments do we remember. And unfortunately, this is an emotional moment that's not something we were all anticipating or wanted, but this is an emotional moment that will always be with us. And it's, again, we've said this before, it's not what you say, it's how you make me feel. And I remember a couple of moments in my career. The first time I walked to the Plaza Hotel, okay, when I got the job, the first time I walked into the back office, and there was this big printer there, and this guy Maurice, who was the night manager, but he was a day manager, and he couldn't wait to not be a night manager anymore. And he was so happy to see me. I go, "Why are you happy to see me? Why are you so happy?" Because I don't have to work nights anymore. I remember that like it's yesterday, because it was a moment that I started to take over the Plaza Hotel at night. It was one of the greatest moments of my career. I remember when I got my TV show. Okay. I remember when me and Glenn started our podcast. 99% of the other moments, I don't remember. Those were emotional moments. I will remember doing this show and bringing everyone together, helping bring everybody together for a long time. So I think that is what people are going to remember from your company, Chris, that you guys had their back. And when you can't have their back, they're going to have your back. I could almost guarantee it.
Chris?
I just want to say, this is really not about Chesapeake. This is about how I feel as a person. I think one thing we're seeing through this is there's really two mentalities, abundance and scarcity. I'm an abundance guy. I've always been an abundance guy. So heaven forbid something happened to Chesapeake and we had to wind it up. I know that this is the greatest country on earth. There's opportunity out there. We could do something different. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I think if we have that abundance and nobody was ever poor. There's a quote, nobody was ever poor by giving. And I think that we have to do our best to take care of those. Our industry got crushed through no fault of anybody's. So let's do our best to make it happen, to bring it back. And, I'd rather go down swinging. That's what I feel like. So
100%.
Yeah. All right. So Chris, when we reopen,
I'm going to step away. I'm going to step away, Glenn, because I'm going to get Jerry on the phone. Hold on one second.
Right, when we reopen, demand will be low with high inventory. How does sales investments change, such as consortia, trade shows, GDS advertising, that kind of stuff look for you, Greg?
How does it look for us right now? Like
in terms of when you think about coming back, I think they're asking about, what's your marketing strategy going to be? Also with paid search, digital, all those kinds of things.
Yeah. So, we're going to be as aggressive as we can, with digital marketing and, things like that. So we're going to, we're we've stayed aggressive in that regard. I think revenue management is going to be extremely critical coming out of this, because I think, as Chris said earlier, you're going to have, if you're in a submarket with 40 hotels, you're all opening basically, day one together. So I think it's really going after all business, all channels. It's going to be, it's going to be pretty much all hands on deck type initiative.
Right. Yep, Chris.
I mean, that's it. And you've already got people. So we've got our revenue team and e-commerce team looking at what people are search terms are right now, because people are dreaming about travel already. I mean, you can't help it. I know my wife yesterday she wanted to get an RV and drive across country, which I had to time out on that. But I mean, people are thinking about getting out and going. So the people that are really tactical about what search terms are being looked at and what type of, that's where you put your investments first, right? Because you're going to have to structure your return to work for sales too, your salespeople. What markets do you bring back on, especially in the full service environment? Do you bring on the IBT corporate person first, or do you look at the Smurf salesperson that's got the regional meeting? I mean, it's really going to be very tactical about how you bring your buildings back online.
Right. Interesting. Hey, it looks like we finally got Jerry behind the scenes. That's very, very exciting. So how about some final thoughts from you guys? I know you both have to get out of here anyway. Greg, we'll start with you.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be, like I said before, it's going to be tough sledding for the next 12 months, but I'm optimistic that we're going to have a, rebound, and we'll be back and stronger than ever before once we, in the next 24 to 36 months, I think we'll be stronger than we were before. So I think it's all going to come back, and really appreciate y'all's time today, Glenn and Anthony and Chris as well. So I really enjoyed spending time with you guys.
Yeah. Thank you for being here for all that extra time. Chris, how about you? A little final thought?
It's always an honor to be on with you guys and people like Greg with great companies. I love this business. I'm not, Anthony asked if executives are looking at doing something else. This is all I've ever done. It's all I ever want to do. So we just need to get back to it. That's my biggest problem is when, I can't take 40 more days of sitting around. I got to get back to it. So
yeah, I feel like we all got to get back to it. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Chris, we'll see you on Thursday. Greg, hopefully we'll see you again on here soon. Take care there, Chris. All right, the one, the only, Mr. Jerry Inzerillo is coming up in just 1 second. Boom. Look who's here, Jerry Inzerillo. Well, half of Jerry Inzerillo.
Hey guys, the A team, Anthony and Glenn.
Hey,
Jerry. Just so you know, I told Glenn that I would be wearing a tie today for you. But I said, you know what? Let me put a sports jacket on in case Jerry's not wearing a tie. But I knew you were going to be wearing a tie.
You guys look great always.
Hey, thank you so much. So, this is going to be a really important interview for us. So everybody out there, share this feed, get people to pay attention to what Jerry has to say, because we know it's going to be important, especially since he's already said nice things about us. Great to see you, sir.
Well, it's great to see you too. Thank you for all your leadership. You guys have been a B12 injection to everybody in the community. Thank you so much. It's very important. People look up to you guys. You're the best in class. So thank you very much. Everything you're doing, all the encouragement, keeping the conversations going. You're just great. So thanks, guys. Big time.
Well, I got a chill in my body when you said that, because, the people that don't know you, I'll just simply say, you can Google him. We're not going to go down his resume, but I will just tell you, he's probably he is one of the greatest leaders of the last 100 years in the hospitality business. He has started so many different trends, so many different things. And, and I said, just recently, I called you and then I texted you, and there was a heavyweight fight, and I said, he's going to be in the ring, because I know it was in your territory. And there you were, right next to the champ, raising his hand. And I was like, of course, that's Jerry. Jerry is truly the Forrest Gump of our world. And Jerry, that you're on the show right now is probably the highlight of our show so far. And we've had some great people on.
Thank you.
But you've been in the trenches for so long, and you've seen everything. And there is, and I will say this without hesitation, there is no better motivator and cheerleader of our industry than Jerry Inzerillo, period, end of story. So with that said, Jerry, what are you thinking? Where are we? What insights can you give? There's not going to be a lot of questions here. I just want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, well, thank you. Look, you can't, there's one thing about being an optimist. There's one thing about spreading positivity. Nobody does it better than the two of you.
Thank you.
But you also can't mislead. And there's an old saying that you have to call a spade a spade.
Yep.
And what happens is that now we have seen a lot of different cycles in 50 years. And as you know, I started cleaning tables 53 years ago, still cleaning tables.
At the same place that I clean tables.
Yeah, that's right.
Lemare
now
on
what
Ocean Parkway.
That's it. Now what happened is that this too shall pass. Now this one is seismic. Those of us that have young children, when they get 70, 80, 90, they're going to say, when we lived through the coronavirus, it's one of those big, big, big moments. Okay, this is seismic. There's going to be a lot of pain. But there is a silver lining for a few weeks.
Hey, your microphone seems to have gotten lower all of a sudden.
Is that better? Is that
Yes.
better?
I think maybe your finger was over the
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. All right. So what happened is that people have always had to travel because people fundamentally need to share. They need to be communal. They need to embrace. They need to experience. And you know what? The last few years, we've seen those trends in travel. Like one of the biggest trends you've seen in the last few years is what we call 3-generational travel. You got a lot of wealth out there now. And grandparents who have wealth realize that the biggest luxury that there is time. So they don't want the grandkids after church or shul or studies or mosque or what they do is they use bribery. Grandparents are very smart. Okay, you pick anywhere in the world. Grandma and I will pay for it, but we're going together. But we get the kids for the whole week, the grandkids for the whole week. Well, it turned out to be a giant trend. You think about how women travel alone or in groups now. Look at any great restaurant in Las Vegas, Macau. Half the restaurant is filled with women just having fun as a group, right? That never happened 20, 30 years ago, okay? You look at millennials that because of the power of social media, they can just go. They don't even need a posse now because they can hook up with like-minded people.
Right.
But what people are looking for now is authenticity. They're looking for real human connection. When you have been landlocked and in your apartment for 6 weeks and probably another 6 weeks in a lot of other places, you're going to crave it more. So they're going to go. Now, the rest of this year is going to be very tough because people are going to be insecure. Can I go to that restaurant? Can I go to that hotel? Can I go back on the cruise ship? Can I go back on an airline? Do I have to sit in the middle seat? We don't know ourselves. But what we do know is that things are going to come back. Now, will it be a bounce back immediately to 2019 global GDP and employment levels? Of course not. But what that means is that we have to just make sure that we stay sharp. This whole thing about training, like now all over the world, including Forbes Travel Guide, these free elite training classes on webinars, take them. Keep yourself sharp. Stay strong. Keep yourself active. And whatever it takes to get through the next 6 to 12 months, do it. It doesn't matter. It's going to come back. And the industry is going to come back. Now, we have to get through the next 6, 9, 12 months. And they're going to be bumpy, everybody. They're going to be bumpy. But we are going to come out on the other side because the human need to travel, to interact, will be greater because now we know how fragile things are. And people are going to want to see it, the real things for themselves. So we're gonna have to deal with it. We're gonna have to be pragmatic. It's gonna be painful, but we will get through it. And that's where the positivity comes in. And that's where we have to stay together, stay sharp, keep our skills up. But human interaction is never more important than what will come out of the other side of this virus.
Let me ask you a question, Jerry. I'm a positive person. You're a positive person. We come from the same streets, literally. We started, our busboy job was the same place we worked at. We crossed paths. We didn't know each other when we were kids, but we crossed paths. Had to be. And we've seen a lot on the streets of Brooklyn and through our careers. Give me an example without using a name where someone called you in the last month that is someone pretty relevant in the community that was shaken. And what did you say to that person? Because I know those conversations happened. And what did you say to them?
Yeah, I'm getting, I wish I could say one or two of those SOSs a day, but I'm getting more than I can handle. I'm getting 2, 3, 4 dozen a day.
Jeez.
Wow.
Now, you get the severe ones where you work with people that you love and admire. One of my great mentors, Carl Matek, who was president of Hilton, one of the great innkeepers, passed away. Now, arguably, he was in his 90s of the coronavirus. Very hurtful to me because he was unbelievably good to me when I was manager at Fontainebleau, executive assistant in 1978. He was regional director of Hilton, went on to become president, one of the great innkeepers. Without mentioning names, I've had 3 people that worked with me, all of which, more than 3, but 3 in particular, that started with me in line positions, busboy, waiter, including one that couldn't even speak English when they went to America in Houston, Texas in 1980. All 3 went on to become GMs, and all 3 died from the coronavirus.
Wow.
2 children, 3 children, 4 children, 47, 52, and 56 years old, respectively. That's painful. And one of the wives called me and said, this person passed away. Broke my heart because he was, as we say in Brooklyn, one of our boys, one of our community in a luxury hotel company. So those are very hard because that you have to take the role of, what can you say? You have to be empathetic. You have to console. And you have to say, we these are things that we don't understand. This is bigger than us. This is in God's hands. Now, more realistically, the SOSs that are coming in, what do? I got laid off. What do I do? And what you have to do, because I'm getting a lot of it, is I say, okay, look, there's very little that we can say in the course of the next 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, right? But you got to protect yourself. You got to protect your family. So if you have businesses, and our friends, Anthony, Glenn, in the restaurant business have been decimated. Not everybody's a Shake Shack. Not everybody's a Ruth Chris, But even the famous guys, you take a guy, wonderful guy, Wolfgang Puck, Michael McCarty, all these fabulous guys, Jeffrey Zakarian, that have done so much for the industry, where they've had to furlough their employees. They've had to apply for government subsidies in Germany and Hong Kong and New York and Vienna and all these places, but they're trying desperately to have the funds to keep their people on the payroll. All right, well, those are good people. Those that haven't, you gotta file for unemployment. You gotta just try to tap into your savings if you even have it to make it through the day. But you gotta stay sharp. You gotta keep your mind sharp. You can't lose your will, because everybody's in this by the tens of hundreds of millions of people. We're going to get through it, but it's going to be difficult. So you have to rely on people that can help you get through. You do not have to worry about pride. There's no room for pride right now. There's room for strength, but there's not room for pride. If you could file for unemployment, if you need to ask a family member or a friend for help to bide you through a few weeks' time, that's what it takes. But hundreds of millions of people are doing it. And it's just a question of getting through the next few months until the industries can come back. Now, in China already, Well, occupancies are not at zero. They're at 30%. Well, it was great when the citywide averages in not the principal city of Beijing and Shanghai, but the other cities were doing 69, 71, 73% occupancy. Well, you'll take 37% occupancy over zero, right?
Mhm.
But at least they're going to creep back. Now, what's going to wind up happening is that domestic tourism will come back first. It's going to come back for two reasons: safety and security issues, and straight up nationalism, that you're going to support the restaurants in your community, hotels in your community, and in your state before you're going to go regional, and you're going to support regional travel within 2 to 4 hours before you go on a 14-hour flight. It's almost like what happened after the attacks of September 11th. Everybody went downtown Tribeca, supported the restaurants, supported the stores, because there was a sense of nationalism. Well, there's going to be a major sense of nationalism in Italy, Spain, Germany, France, America. This is going to happen. And then when people start feeling that it's safe, they'll drive in the car. They'll get on a plane ride for an hour or two, so they know if they have to get home, they can. And then it will start again. After September 11th, when we were running Atlantis in the Bahamas, September 10th, we had a 92% occupancy. September 12th, we had an 11% occupancy. September 13th, we had virtually a 2 or 3% occupancy. Well, by the time Thanksgiving came of that year, we were back up to our regular occupancies. But that's because people knew that it was a one-off attack. This is much more insecure. So we're going to have to wait and see, but it will come back.
So you as a hotelier for a very, very long time, you're a hotelier, but you're also an entrepreneur. Your career is something that a lot of people look at and say, wow, he's had such a career, but you really are an entrepreneur. You've always worked for Jerry, and people have always bidded for your support or your employment, for lack of a better word. What do you say to that person that is considering that maybe I don't want to be a GM anymore? Maybe I need to go and do something else, still be in the hospitality industry, but more an entrepreneurial standpoint. Like, what do you say to that mindset? Because I know that happened to me about 9 years ago, where I was like, you know what, I'm going to be in a business, but I'm going to go become an entrepreneur a little bit freer. What do you say to those people? Because I get those questions almost 10 times a day.
Yeah, I think it's a super question, and I think, believe it or not, this pandemic is going to rightfully cause a lot of people to reassess their lives.
Right.
What's important now is coming into focus more than just chasing and running for the sake of chasing and running. This is gonna say, maybe it's time for me to go out on my own. Now, there's a lot of creativity out there. There's been a lot of great mentors. If you think about the great organizations, how they taught people. But people are going to be more sovereign now. They're going to want to take their lives and have more control over it. This whole thing about technology, working from home, having more time with your kids, having more time with your family, having more time to pursue your personal interest. When I speak to young people, which I try to do as much as I possibly can, and they say to me, look, you've been around a long time. We know what has worked well. What hasn't? Do you have any regrets after 53 years? Yeah, sure. I've made some big mistakes, but the big mistakes are the people that I love. And the big mistakes are that I always pulled a shift and worked breakfast, lunch, and dinner like the both of you boys before I said I love you or I spent the right time. And now we're going to learn that there has to be a better balance between your work and your pursuit of your career,
Right.
and those people that you love and those people that you enjoy. So I think there's going to be a fountain of this entrepreneurial spirit. And what do you have to lose? Go. Try it on your own. What everybody realizes now, there's no shame in failing. There's the old saying, the guy or girl on top of the mountain didn't fall there.
Right.
You had to climb it. right? So go for it. Now's the time, because as an entrepreneur, yes, you will have more risk, but you'll also have more control to do what you want to do. And and Anthony, you're a great example of that. I mean, you worked your tail off. You became such an exceptional GM, and then you said, no, I got a calling. I want to take my gifts. I want to do what I do. Want to make money. Want to support my family. Take care of people around me. But there's very few people that have the generosity of spirit that you have. And a lot of people over the last 10 years have been, and especially over the last 5, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people have benefited from your generosity of spirit. You could only have done that if you had the courage to break out and be more entrepreneurial.
Right.
So I would encourage everybody to do that. There's going to be a lot of capital. It's different than what people think. The capital is not going to dry up.
Why? Talk about that. Why? Talk about that.
Because what's going to happen is that the economic trends around the world are still strong. They're still strong, right? You'll have some corrections and stuff like that, but you had in the turn of the millennium, before the millennium, WTTC could tell you, UNWTO, the great Roger Dow could tell you at USDA, but I think you had between 70, 80 ministers of tourism. Now you have double that. And that's because governments all over the world now are realizing that tourism is one of the best economic stimulation for jobs. You don't need a PhD in applied mathematics from Harvard to come into our community. You take some street kids like the 3 of us, we did pretty well, right? And we're still doing well. And there's a lot of people behind us that are smarter and more charismatic than me that are going to cut the path, right? But now, instead of the Minister of Tourism being a big portfolio that you give to someone to help you on your campaign to be president or prime minister, now you're giving that portfolio to the smartest man or woman in the room, because you realize that there's nothing more important that affects your image of your country, the multiplier effect of foreign currency as it affects your economy, and the producing of employment. So there's going to be a lot of capital out there, and the capital is going to invest in people. Remember what Warren Buffett said, and he's a pretty smart guy, and we could learn from him today as much as we could 30 years ago. And that is, I will always invest in products that I know are going to be around 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? But more importantly, I always invest in people. I look for passion. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, unbelievably smart, 34 years old, unbelievable work ethic, 80-hour-a-week work ethic. The first thing he'll tell you, what my father taught me, His Majesty the King? Surround yourself with passionate people. They'll get the job done. And so our community has produced people who love to serve, who are welcoming. And that's why the tech industry has poached our people. Insurance companies, banking, investment banking.
Hospitals.
They've taken they recruit from us right out of college, right? It's one of our issues to retain our graduates, right? Because everybody knows that we love to serve. And now you wait and see what happens with hospital administration as a career, airport administration as a career, and then of course hospitality administration. Going to be a lot of things coming up.
Jerry, we don't have time now to talk about, but I'll just tell you a really, really quick story. Hopefully we'll have him on soon. There was a bellman that didn't want to be a union bellman, didn't want to be a supervisor back at the Macklowe Hotel in New York City. And I was the front office manager. We took a walk around Bryant Park, and I said, listen, you are the sharpest person I've ever met. I've been in the military. There's nobody sharper than you. You need to take this job. If it doesn't work out, I'll get you back in the union. You need to take the job. Didn't want to take it. 10 minutes later, or a day later, I should say, comes back and says, I'll take the job. You know what he is today, Jerry? He's the CEO of one of the largest hospitals in New York City.
Say, God bless him. And I'm going to tell you, what you guys should do if you want to have fun. And there's, you guys are, you have a PhD in fun, both of you. You drop my name and get one of the best bellmen on your show ever.
Yeah.
and that is Alan Firstman, who's the owner of Montage Hotels.
Montage. Oh,
And
really?
you call him.
All
you
right.
call him,
I've had
you
him and his
call
son
it-
on the show before. We'll get him
right, and
on.
Michael is a chip off the old block. He's smarter than his old man. But you tell his old man that I said he's the best bellman I ever met. And you look at Montage and you look at Pendry.
Mhm.
These guys have done a brilliant job. But you say, look, we had to get you on the show because Jerry says you're the best bellman. But stories
But your
like
son's
that,
smarter than you. Right.
running. Yeah, his son is is smarter and better looking, and Alan is super smart and super good looking. But Michael, you wait and see what Michael accomplishes in the next 20, 30 years in the hotel business. He's a superstar. That's a superstar family and one of the best brands in the world, huh?
One of the things, I look back now where I feel like, we're all starting over again. And I look back when I was young, 25, working at the Plaza Hotel for basically nothing. I think it was like 50 cents an hour almost. And because we worked 100 hours a week. But my enthusiasm is stronger than it was then. It's just never left me. God has blessed me with that. I don't know why or how. It's not something I try, but I'm really, really fortunate to just be blessed with, Michael Jordan was blessed with being able to play basketball. I was blessed with enthusiasm. How do you keep your enthusiasm? Because when I'm around you, we were at the Four Seasons recently, a couple of months, 8 months ago, and just sitting around you was like sitting around like some kind of energy I've never been around before. So, and I've been around you enough times to feel it all the time. When we were at the Forbes travel guide in the event, the black tie event in Beverly Hills, every single person in that room wanted to take a picture with you, including me. And there were 1,000 people in that room. You took a picture with every single person. And it wasn't like, hey, smile. It was like, hey, how are you? How's your family? How's the hotel? What's going on? And the line was ridiculously long. You had to wait 2 hours to see you, but you never, ever, the enthusiasm never left you. What can you tell someone that's just that feeling enthusiastic right now?
Yeah. Thank you for that. That means a lot to me because here's the thing. If the guest you serve take or extract your energy, you'll have a good season or two. But if the guests you serve are the source of your energy, you're going to have a few good decades, right? Now, if you welcome someone and someone thinks enough of you to want to take a picture with you, then you owe them that respect. And if there's a line of 1 or 1,000, you owe every single person that same respect because you had the privilege to serve that allowed you to become a role model, even though we're all human. Now, we have good days and we have down days, right? And everybody's part of the human race. When you give, it takes a lot out of you. So you have to have a way to rejuvenate. Now, what I would say to all my friends that are listening, and thank you guys, is that concentrate on the word inspiration, one of the great words of our language. People think about it, but they never break it up. What is inspiration? In spirit and the process of rejuvenating the spirit, not outspiration, inspiration. So what happens is that you feed off the energy of these great people that come to you and say, how can I be like you? No, don't worry about being like me. Just serve. Because, there's that great line in Shakespeare. I used it on, when I had the privilege to do the TED Talk that's on YouTube. And I say, it's hard to quote a busboy from Brooklyn quoting Shakespeare. But Juliet says to Romeo, the more I give to thee, the more I have. Enthusiasm comes from knowing that you're doing good. You're just doing your best. Now, there is a line in the Quran. There's a lesson that you learn when you hear in the Middle East. It's really a universal lesson. But the Quran says, may Allah accept all your good intentions. It doesn't say, may Allah accept all your
Right.
good results. Not everything is about results. It's about where your heart is. Are you sincere? Are you serving without looking for praise, without looking for reward? And if you do that, you will always you will always be rewarded, whatever your beliefs are. So my enthusiasm comes from the fact that guys like us, girls like us, boys and girls that are in our community, men and women, we love to serve. It's our calling. It's our duty. But we also have the privilege of being around a long time. And then, in interest of time, one of the fairest institutions in the world is the Olympics, because you have to work hard to win an Olympic gold medal. Think how hard that is. How many gold medals? 200, 300 every 4 years out of a population of 7 billion? Think about the math on that.
Yep.
Now, the reason why the Olympics are so fair is because if you win a gold medal in the Olympics,
Mm-hmm.
not only are you not entitled to a gold medal in the next Olympics, you're not even entitled to place on the team. You got to make the team again. Now, what I'm doing as an old dog, I've worked hard to make the 2020 team. I'm trying to make the 2030 team.
Right.
That
So
that is beautifully said. And one of the questions, I'm sorry, Glenn, I just want to ask one more and I'll shut up for a second. But
You won't, but that's okay.
it is a tough question to ask you, but since we're both from the same place, and as articulate as you are and as intelligent as you are, I love the fact that you still say that instead of that, and so don't ever stop saying that, because I feel much better about myself. How hard your new adventure is taking you away from the United States for a time being. You're not here right now in the thick of it. Knowing you, how hard is that for you?
It's extremely hard for two reasons. One is because my family, my fabulous wife, Prudence, very, very sharp girl, grew up in apartheid South Africa, self-educated, became one of the top TV anchors in the world. My divine boss, my daughter, Helena, be 14 on August 3rd. Because of school
That's
and
my
looking
twin's
after.
birthday, by the way. That's my twin's birthday, August 3rd.
Yeah, great day. Tony Bennett, also August 3rd. A lot of great people. So, my mother is 93. Very, very hard to be away from them. Very hard to be away from all my fellow innkeepers and everybody in tourism. But you know what? America is my home base. It's not my tourism family, because my tourism family is the global tourism family. Now, I'm very, very privileged because the custodian of the two holy mosques, His Majesty the King Salman here in Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, extraordinary people. I mean, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is 34 million people. There's people that are here that are undocumented. His Majesty has said that 100% of all the medical care and the hospitalization of everybody, whether they're documented or not, there's no politics here. There's no polarization. There's just one big generous spirit. And the other thing is that this year, Saudi Arabia has the privilege and honor of being the presidency of the G20. Now, the kingdom is putting together not just the G20 heads of state, but the G20 ministers of tourism, because what will happen in November and leading up to November is that our really excellent Minister of Tourism, His Excellency Ahmed Al-Khatib, has been in touch with Gloria at WTTC and United Nations World Travel Organization and USTA to try and come up with stimulus packages that could reboot global tourism. Saudi's playing a major role in it. So I'm trying to keep in touch with as many countries as I can. We're one community. Home base is America. I'm an American kid, but we as innkeepers are global. Our community of service, our community of hospitality, our community of welcome. Now, the other thing I want to say, which is very important, because it's a reminder to everybody. It's said by everybody 3 years old or 103 years old. It's said by everybody of every faith, every religion, every nationality, every creed. Everybody says it every single day. but they don't slow it down enough. And that is, what do you say when someone says thank you? Everybody all over the world in every language says you're welcome. Slow it down. What are you saying? You are welcomed. We, as servants, have always been the custodians of the promise of welcoming people. We always have. We always will. There's going to come a time very soon in the weeks to come where we will go back in full force to do whatever you believe put us on this earth. God, Allah, Jah, Buddha, doesn't matter. We will go back to our calling, which is to do what we do best. Serve and say, you are welcomed. That's our calling.
Yeah, I love it. You said something earlier. There is no shame in failure. Something I couldn't agree with you more about, Jerry. But I do think there's a shame in not trying, not getting out of your comfort zone and pushing for your potential. So I'd love for everybody out there to go back to that spirit of entrepreneurship that Jerry was talking about later, to think about that. Think about what scares you about that and to try to push through it. When I started my business a little over 4 years ago, I was scared of that failure, but I didn't allow myself to prevent me from doing something different because of that, because I knew that I had to push myself. I knew that I had to take a chance in my life. I knew that the only way to a better future was to challenge myself. Maybe you could speak a little bit about getting out of that comfort zone and forcing yourself, even though you're scared, to go ahead and try that something new, to put yourself out beyond where you feel safe.
You have to. You have to. Now, there's a great Winston Churchill quote. I probably won't get it right, but I'll paraphrase it because I wouldn't want to misquote the great man. But to be safe everywhere is to be strong nowhere. And you have to go for it. So people said to me, you know, Jerry, I once an executive search guy called me and he said, you know, you're a maverick. And that's not everybody's cup of tea. I said, well, I'm from Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Since when maverick is a good thing in Brooklyn? Since when did that become a bad thing? And by the way, I like reinventing myself because it allowed me to play regionally, it allowed me to play nationally, and then it allowed me to play globally. And you know what I found out when I got to play globally? That people want the same thing all over the world, but you got to go out and expose yourself. You have to go out and reinvent. You have to have the courage. And if you fail, there's nothing wrong with it. It's part of life. You got to get up and take the chance. And
right.
If you do, you'll get the glory of it. Just go and try it.
And you know, when you go and try it, there's something that happens to you that forces you to work harder. If you stay status quo and you say, hey, this is good or whatever, you're going to work to that level. When you're an international person or you're a regional person or even a city person, you know, and you're in a position of leadership, you have to work to that leadership. And Jerry, and I know this is true, you've been around every famous person, I think, that's been born in the last 50 years and every major power broker in the last 50 years. And have you ever seen anyone in that position that hasn't worked harder than you?
There are fakes, but fakes don't last long.
Right.
You get some generational fakes but what I tell my daughter, and she gets it, and everybody knows this, beauty can only take you so far. Personality can only take you so far, right? But there's work ethic will never forsake you. It will never forsake you. And, you know, with the Olympics, it's not actually the most talented person that wins the gold medal.
That's right.
No, not at all.
It's the person who wants it the most.
Mm-hmm.
You got to put the time in. You got to do the reps. You know, in spring training, any sport, what do you do? Fundamental reps. But the real winners who win more than one season, who shape things, the Gretzkys, the Jordans, you know, the Jeters, you know, the Mia Hamms, they wanted it more than ever. They had the fire. They go after it. And what's the fuel? The thrill of victory is knowing that you gave it all you have. And, by the way, failure is not losing. Failure is when you could have done better and you didn't.
Oh
It's
my
not
God.
what other failure is not other people judging you.
Right.
Failure is success and failure are individual. When you're successful and when you fail. No one else can judge you on that.
I'm going to
Failure
go
is-
back and listen to this because the words that you're giving are absolute gold, and I'm going to listen and write and write a lot of what you're saying down, and because it's all true. But what do you say? Because I have 3 daughters, and I have all different levels of enthusiasm and go get them. But what do you say to somebody, whether it be an employee, a friend, or a daughter, that it's just not in their makeup? One of the things that I think we forget, or I know sometimes I forget, this is my makeup. God gave this to me. Michael Jordan at his Hall of Fame speech was still pissed off that he got cut from the team. I mean, this guy is the greatest basketball player that's ever lived, and he's still pissed off.
I mean, from his high school team.
Right, from his high school team. And he still talked about it in his Hall of Fame like his whole life depended on it. So
let me tell you something. That's a great question, and I'm really super happy that came up. Not everybody can be Michael Jordan. And not everybody should aspire to be Michael Jordan, because not every mountain is Everest. Now, it doesn't mean you're not entitled to climb it, but not every mountain is Everest. But I'll tell you the one thing that is true, universal, and it's probably the greatest lesson in life. To thy own self be true. To thy own self be true. If you want to be a pastry chef, be a pastry chef, but be the best damn pastry chef. If you want to be an opera singer, be an opera singer, but give it everything you have. And you know what? The results will take care of itself.
That's right.
I mean, what have we learned this month? Is there anyone on the earth that doesn't admire a nurse? Is there anyone that doesn't? Is there any parent on the planet now that doesn't have new respect for a school teacher? How they take care of 43 kids in kindergarten banging against the walls all day long? I mean, what respect? Now, in the teaching profession, in the medical profession, they're Michael Jordan, right? Now, what I say to people in the hotel, and I said it to my daughter, Papa, when we go into hotels, people know you. And when I was CEO, I had the privilege of being with Forbes Travel Guide. She'd say, Dad, you're the CEO of the company. I said, sister, let me just tell you something. If I don't show up to work for one day, Forbes Travel Guide is filled with good people that can run without me. Trust me. If that housekeeper doesn't show up, that telephone operator doesn't show up, that dishwasher doesn't show up, you're in real trouble. So what happens is that to thy own self be true. If you're an academic, if you're a servant, if you're an athlete, or if you're a scientist, all God or the divine expects of you is that you served unselfishly, but most importantly is be true to yourself. You're the final judge, not anybody else.
And I think now we're in that position where we're all kind of starting at zero. I don't care what your bank account looks like. We all have to go fight and fight and fight and fight. And some people have the means to fight harder or fight longer. But now we're all starting over in the hospitality field. We're all because over doesn't mean at the bottom. It just means that effort, the effort you put in the day this virus came into our vernacular and into our world. You have to work harder. The first day we're back, you have to work harder now, and it's just the way it is. This is a journey, not a destination. And I think there's no better example of that than you, Jerry. I don't think anyone has ever done it better when looking at this is a journey. Like even what you've done now, and I know when you decide to make this career shift, I'd be lying if I told you I didn't have a little tear in my eye when I heard, because I was like, wow, Jerry and I were just getting to know each other and we had some plans. But this is a journey. I looked at it for so many years as a destination. In the last few years, I look at it as a journey. And if you're any great example, it's not of enthusiasm and it's not of intellect and being a great hotelier, because you're all three of those things. It's that you're a journeyman. You're a man that understands the journey. And if you taught me anything, it's that this is a journey, and I appreciate every second of it. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you. You know, we get into a position where now it's not about innings. It's about how can you take your God-given gifts, your privilege and your reputation? How do you take all of that and inspire people, those who come into your orbit, to be the best example of themselves? And the quarterback of that team is Oprah Winfrey. How do you be the best example of yourself? You know, Oprah, I encourage everybody to go online and listen to Oprah's commencement address to Harvard. You know, again, I can't quote her, even though she's very dear to me. But she said, you know, I've done 35,000 interviews. I've interviewed everybody. At the end of the day, all people are looking for is validation. Did I do okay? Was it all right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you know what people really want to know? Did you see me? Did what I say matter? Did
Right.
you hear me? That's what hospitality is. You know, we tend to get glazed. You know, look what happened in many aspects of the airline industry. You know, it used to have such high personal service. Now it's just crank them in, crank them out, crank them in. That's going to change. And the airline business lost sight of their customers. We never did that in the hotel business. We never lost sight of them. You can't do that in the restaurant business. You'd be dead in a minute.
Right.
Right. But what happens now, and one of the principal reasons why I came to the kingdom, was to contribute to the reforms that His Majesty and the Crown Prince are putting in. Because like now on the Dedeya Gate Development Authority, which I have the privilege of being the CEO, we're 500 people, mostly Saudis, 83% Saudis, very young staff, 31%. But 36% of my staff are women. 16% of those women are in management. And now
Awesome.
globally, one of the biggest trends are women coming into senior positions in hospitality. And they're rock stars. And I could tell you, in Saudi Arabia, thanks to the enthusiasm of a young crown prince, he is saying to everybody, dream big. And whatever you can dream, you can accomplish. And I'm going to make sure you have the resources. And he's doing it. And it's very exciting because, you know, I sold everything, went to apartheid South Africa 4 years before the great Nelson Mandela became president in 1994. I went to join Saul in 1990. And things changed there. You know, in apartheid, nobody could have careers in hospitality. And now it's one of the best tourism countries in the world. Well, Saudi Arabia in September of 2019 opened up for tourism. And it's going to be in the next, you're going to not believe it, next few years, going to be one of the great tourism countries. So it's about empowering people.
You know
Right.
what's
Let me do a quick show note. He was referring to Saul Kerzner, who recently passed away. Saul created Sun City. He also created Atlantis, Bahamas. So he was a real interesting revolutionary type of character in the hospitality field. Please continue.
You know what's interesting? Whether it be Saul, whether it be the King, whether it be Nelson Mandela, whether it be Oprah Winfrey, whether it be Desmond Tutu, who you had, I think you had lunch with him on his birthday this year. I think I saw a picture, or maybe it was an older picture. Those people call you in their time of need. And tell me if this is, and I don't mean to out you, but I'm going to out you a little bit. Tell me if this is true or not. When Oprah's dear friend, and I don't know if mother, godmother, whatever you want to call her to her, the great poet passed away. And I won't even mention her name. Well, I will. Maya Angelou. When she passed away, Oprah called you. How does that happen? What is it about Jerry? What is it that when Jerry was just talking made me tear up? That there's something about your spirit, and it's much more than Brooklyn or your career or whatever. Like they call you. These are the Michael Jackson, best man at your wedding. I mean, and I don't mean to name drop. I mean, we went to a Forbes thing, and Sharon Stone was like the most excited human being in the world, just standing 2 feet away from you. So whether it be a hotelier or a king, what is it in the DNA of Jerry Inzerillo? Because I need to bottle that.
Yeah, well, you want to know something? It's not the DNA of Jerry Inzerillo. It's the DNA of a servant. And you know what? There's one thing you can't mess with, and that's sincerity. And you know what? In a polarized society now, politics, this one calling this one, that one, this one calling that one. You know what? All these great people, Oprah, Mandela, Tutu, all those people, they're human beings. They're the best and brightest. A lot of them have had to overcome great adversity. You think about the adversity.
Yep.
Mandela, 27 years in prison, Tutu, all the people you mentioned. Oprah, what a tough upbringing, what she became, one of the great role models of the world, the great Quincy Jones, tough upbringing, what he became. All these people, they know the truth. And what they know is what's real, what's authentic. So when they see people like them that know the truth, that have walked through the storms and serve to the best of their ability with all their heart, you become trusted. And the other thing, nowadays, who do you trust? Journalists can't keep a secret. Lawyers can't keep a secret. Lord knows politicians can't keep a secret. What's the only community in the world that can keep a secret and keep discretion and keep elegance? Innkeepers.
Yep.
We're the only ones. Restaurateurs, innkeepers, tourism. So these people you mentioned, they're the best and brightest of society. But in a lot of ways, they're the most truthful because they've had to walk through the fires to get where they are. And I'll tell you what they respect and admire more than anything. They admire sincerity, authenticity, unselfishness, and people that are willing to serve. And that's why they come to you, because you're trusted. Now, the other thing, trust takes years to establish and minutes to destroy. So that's why you have to have integrity. You got to be good to your word. All of us grew up with role models that if you shook their hand, that's a contract. You don't have to worry about.
Yep.
I never wake up in the morning, never, not once. How can I take advantage of this person, or how can I gain advantage on that person? Now, you take your knocks. I've had more success than I deserve, and I've had a few thumps. But you know what? It's like Glenn says on failure. It gives you the character to make you who you are. But as Quincy says, you got to keep on keeping on. And as my great friend Richie Blackjack Slack, my roommate at UNLV, said, nothing to it but to do it. You got to go out there. You got to show up. You got to put the time in. You got to want it more. But the most important thing is be authentic and be sincere. And when you are, people will gravitate towards you. You don't have to worry about gravitating towards them.
And there's no more sincerity of giving your word. And in your position that you're in now, with everything that's happening around your family in the United States, you had an out. I would imagine that you could have said, "Hey, I need to go." And your sincerity and your loyalty is something that I admire, and something that is instinctual. It's not something that you learn. It's instinctual. And I'd rather fail giving you the truth than succeed giving you a lie. And you use a word that no one uses. And I've used there's two things you said that I've been saying for a very, very long time. And one, I always say, if I'm not in the hotel for a couple of days, it doesn't matter. If my housekeeper doesn't show up, it matters. And that's why I'm such a big advocate of housekeepers. And number two, I've used the word servant over and over, and people look at me and they get offended by that word. They're like, I'm not a servant. Okay, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. I'm a servant. It's what I do. It's what we do on this show, Glenn and I. We're serving our industry. We're trying to bring people like you. Getting you on our show is a tremendous honor and a tremendous get.
Wow.
If you're a host of a network show right now, getting Jerry Inzerillo to talk about the hotel business is a get. It's a huge get. So to be on our show and allow us to continue to be authentic and to tell the truth. And we don't do any rehearsal. Glenn and I have no rehearsal of what we're going to ask Jerry. You and I, Jerry, had no rehearsal. And I think that the servant leadership is something that has been instilled in me in the military. And the ability to be authentic has been instilled in me in the military, because I always said that if you're in the war, great leaders come back, bad leaders don't. And
Yeah, and you know the other
they
thing,
don't get
you
shot
never
by the enemy.
right, and you know the other thing, you could use the metaphor, but any military metaphor works. The captain never leaves the ship, man or woman.
Yep.
You never leave a Marine never leaves another Marine behind. We are one community. And by the way, all these exceptional people around the world that keep us safe in law and order, right?
Mhm.
Think about what most police cars say in every language around the world. It doesn't say to protect and to serve. It says to serve and protect.
Mhm.
Think about that.
Oh, that's
To
interesting.
serve and protect, not protect and serve. So we serve. Service is nobility. Now, Prudence, fabulous. You can't get a better person on earth than her. You have to stop saying that you're a servant. You know what? I am a servant, and I'm not going to stop saying it because I'm proud of it. There's nobility of service. And just one final reference to that TED Talk. I say in Latin that there's two words that trouble me, and I hope they trouble you. Who came up with the word subservient? That if you serve, you're below. Where we come from,
Interesting.
service is noble. You're above. Subservient. And by the way, who came up with the word subordinate? The people you work with are below you? Who came up with that word? They're not part of my team, because the people you have the honor of working with people, you better make sure that they're respected and that their self-esteem is intact and that you work as a unit. And you can use whatever metaphors you want in commerce or military. If you're not tight as a unit, I got news for you. And another thing, there's no atheist in a foxhole. You know,
Right.
what happens now is that with this coronavirus, we are glued to each other as one community. We're going to persevere. We're going to get through it. We have to be realistic. But what got us to where we are now, sincerity, authenticity, work ethic, preparation, putting your reps in, wanting it more than anybody else. This DNA is going to be more important when we come out on the other side of this. So we just have to keep our resolve, stay together as a community. And that's why what the two of you guys are doing, nobody better, in keeping the conversations going, providing encouragement, providing comfort, providing realism, will allow people the conversation to know that they're not in this alone, that we're all together as one unit.
Well, thank you. And one of my favorite parts of the show is having guests like you on. And on our Feel Good Friday, we had country music artist Craig Morgan. We've had Brian Newman, Lady Gaga's band leader. We've had so many great people come on the show, and you're just it's an honor. But the most important question I have for you, Jerry, is when you come back to Brooklyn, where's the first place you're going? Roll and Roast at L&B or Randazzo's?
Probably all of the above, but I can't believe it. The other night, it shows you how delirious you can be when you're working 80-hour weeks in isolation. But I just had I had an epiphany for the Manicotti at Spumoni Gardens. So I think I'm gonna have to hit that one. And by the way, when you talk to Firstman, the best bellman, you want to get someone else on the show, call him and say that Jerry Inzerillo said that there's only one busboy in his career that he would put in the category with him.
Yeah.
As a busboy, and get Horst Schulze on the show to talk about being a busboy.
Hey, could you reach out to him for us, because I've tried in the past and I've gotten the get out of here, kid kind of thing.
We're gonna have to have Horst and Alan come on to talk about cleaning tables and running fronts.
If you can make that happen, and just so those people that from Brooklyn don't understand, Spumoni Gardens and L&B, it's L&B Spumoni Gardens, the same place. So I used to be a big chicken parm guy there, but now I didn't like the pizza there. I know that's I couldn't even say that out loud, but I love the pizza now. As I got older, L&B pizza is the best. So when you're back in Brooklyn, my friend, we're gonna have a beer and manigot and some pizza, and you're not invited, Glenn.
Well, hey, I wouldn't ask. I wouldn't expect anything less. Jerry Inzerillo, thank you so much for being here, all the way from the Middle East, and seems to get a better reception than a lot of the folks that we have here in the United States in terms of quality
and better lighting. So, Jerry,
Yeah.
that young, I want you. The last thing I want you to talk about real quick is that kid coming out of UNLV or Johnson and Wales or Cornell or Brooklyn Tech or wherever they're coming from around the country that had their heart set on hospitality. And they're like, hey, I'm rethinking hospitality. This is scary. We went from 100 to 0 quick. And I don't think this is the right time. I'm going to be, my mother wanted me to be, something else, and I'm going to go do something else. This is scary. What do you say to that person?
Oh boy, I'll tell you what, if there was ever a time to come into our community, it's now. Keep the faith. I'll tell you what, service, innkeeping, hospitality, greatest tourism, fastest growing industry in the planet. 11% of GDP, 1 out of every 10 jobs in many countries now, 1 out of 5. And remember, our community is in all 238 countries. Your guests change every day. You have the chance of seeing the best and brightest. You have a chance to know the world, to travel. The best industry in the world is tourism. You got to come in. There's going to be explosive opportunity. It may not be the same as the next 6 months, but you have to do it. Now, what you see behind me, I have to give a shout out to my friend Bob Karasmi, another guy that started way down in the ranks as a line. But I live at the Ritz-Carlton in Riyadh, which is a beautiful hotel. I think I'm the only guest here now because we have everything shut down. But a shout out to the great people of Marriott. We wish Arnie Sorensen, our great friend, all the strength. He's been an amazing leader. Mr. Marriott, everybody knows the Ritz-Carlton guys. Thank you for your hospitality. You've been a beacon to all of us. We are lucky as an industry to have. We have such an abundance of great leadership of everybody all over the world. So everybody that's got a degree in hotel administration, this is going to pay you big dividends. You don't even give a moment about thinking about going into other businesses. Stay the course, because the future of hospitality is brilliant. And remember, you can move at your own speed. In the old days, you had to be a front office manager 5 years, and a rooms division manager 5 years, and an executive assistant manager 10 years, and then you got to be a GM in your 50s. Now, some of the best GMs in the world, men and women, all nationality, all faiths, in their 30s, some in their 20s. Best time to come in the industry. Be very, very excited about the future.
Weren't you the youngest GM in Four Seasons history at the time?
Yes, I was tempted to ask Isidore Sharp, the founder of Four Seasons, who I love, one of the greatest innkeepers ever on the planet. Talk about one of the best in the last 100 years. Think about how great Four Seasons is.
Well, ask him at 2:30 when you talk to him.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, he's one of my heroes. And by the way, if you say to Isidore Sharp, this is very important. I'm glad you brought it up. If you say to Isidore Sharp, you built arguably one of the greatest luxury hotel companies in the history of luxury, how did you do it? He will say, don't look for a sophisticated answer. It's two things. The golden rule: do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. And I did not make Four Seasons great. All the people who work at Four Seasons made Four Seasons great. And that's why Isidore Sharp is great, because one of the greatest attributes of our community, besides authenticity, discretion, and confidentiality, one of the greatest attributes of our community is humility. And you will never find a more humble person than Isidore Sharp, than Mr. Oberoi. You talk about Michael Kadori, humble, very, very wonderful, wonderful people. So that's very important.
So that is a great message. If you're in this industry starting out, and I agree, and I've said it, please, now is the time. We need talent. And the fakers won't make it. Those people that are in the industry for the last 10 years that were just calling it in and picking up the phone and not real salespeople, not real revenue managers, not real general managers, they're not going to make it. And because there's so many opportunities. and you have an opportunity to really go high really fast if you're willing to put in the work. And the one thing, the word work has got to be the number one word in your dictionary. Work, work, work. And it will be, me and Jerry are complete 100% products of Brooklyn, of people that just worked really hard and were given opportunities that we took the most of. Glenn, started this company 4 years ago, and he is the person that everybody turns to in our industry to discuss our industry. So work is a word that will never go out of style.
And by the way, the great Quincy Jones will tell you that the dictionary is the only place where success comes before work.
That is true. Jerry, I am honored. I know, Glenn, I'll
It's my honor.
But it is absolutely my honor. And I cannot wait to see all the great things you're doing there. And I can't not wait to be in your embrace again and give you a big kiss and a hug.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And,
keep up the good work.
Jerry, and when you do get back and you guys have that dinner, I'm going to totally crash it, even though I'm not invited. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Listen, everybody, stay strong. We're going to get through this. God bless you. Better days ahead. Just hang in there.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, sir.
Jerry.
Thanks, guys.
Wow.
Wow is right. And let me tell you something. Arlene, who's my first general manager, just went on my Facebook page and said, Jerry Inzerillo is such an inspiration. Totally agree on his philosophy. Believe in your people. Well, Arlene was my first GM, and I'm going to cry because she is that person. She was the person that inspired me. She was the person that said, I look good in the suit for the first time I ever wore a suit. And she goes, now you're ready for the meeting. So Arlene, as much as Jerry's an inspiration, you can see the tears in my eyes. You're an inspiration. And so thank you for coming on here and saying that. But wow, look at Jerry, man. How powerful of a man.
That was an incredible conversation that we had, and it was amazing to be a part of it. And I'll tell you, I can't put up the LinkedIn stuff on our screens yet. Our technology is still we're still trying to figure that out. Well, not us, the people we work with are trying to figure that out. But I've never seen such positive reactions from people. They were moved, they were inspired. This has been one of the most special shows we've ever done. In fact, if you listen to what our audience is saying, they think this was probably the best show that we've ever done. So Jerry, you're making it hard for us. We got to try to top this one somehow. I don't know how we're gonna have to do it, but
maybe we'll bring up Schultze. But what's interesting is this is the best show we ever done, and we didn't do any of the talking. So that's saying something.
I think it was so good. All right,
we don't need to talk.
All right, so Jerry may have said that you got to work hard and do all of that kind of stuff in order to get past a certain level. I'm going to continue to just rely on these amazing good looks over here because I'm too lazy to put in the work. But Anthony, any final thoughts before we get out of here today?
Well, I have a 2:00 show that I might be late for. Am I late? 3 minutes.
Yeah, you're going to be late, especially since I had something else set up for us too. So
let's do it. So Jeremy, I'm going to be a little late. She's probably hearing me right now. To my Facebook Live show that I do every day with my partner Jeremy. But what I think is really important is every one of us that have been listening to Jerry, and I will re-listen to this broadcast. And if you missed it, please go to the podcast, go back to Facebook Live or go to LinkedIn Live and watch it tonight when you have some time. But let me. I think we all need to pick some words and some moments from his conversation. First, go to YouTube and look at his speech that he gave, his TED Talk. Number one. Number two, go look at Oprah's speech at Harvard. I've listened to it. It's amazing. But there's words that have kept me strong over the years, and he reinforced them today. Servant, I am a servant, number one. Number two, work ethic. I work really hard. And number three, be true to your word. Do those three things and nothing will get in your way. That's it. This guy, I asked him, I wouldn't say to him on the interview, and I love the fact that he says that. That makes me so happy. I asked him a question. I pulled him over at Forbes one day, and I just met him. Jerry Inzerillo, big deal. I don't care. I'm from Brooklyn. I don't get over here. I want to talk to you. I put my arm around him. I said, you're not the real deal until you can answer this question. If you can answer this question, you're the real deal. And I asked him a question. I won't tell you what I asked him. I asked him if he knew somebody from the neighborhood.
Right.
And he called him Uncle. Let's say his name was Angelo, for lack of a word. He goes, you mean Uncle Angelo? He was in my house. I was like, all right, you're the real deal. And he said the right things that I knew he was true. So he is Brooklyn as Brooklyn gets, and that he is where he is are those three words. He's a servant, he works, he's authentic. That's it.
Yep.
No secret. No secret.
All right. I absolutely love it. All right. We got to get out of here, guys. This has been an absolutely incredible show. I want to thank you all for being here, and we will see you tomorrow.
I would need to know from you, Glenn, what's the one word or one thing that he said to you that you'll remember? I need to know.
Oh, man. There was just so much
on
that.
Even though you can delete me, but you have to say one.
to say one. I loved his attitude of being a servant leader for one. And to me, it's about when you put all of that stuff out there, it's going to come back to you in a better and more righteous type of a place. So I'm a big believer in you put out all that positive energy. You work hard, you will find success as long as you find your passion. And I think he really underscored that very, very nicely today. Because
2 hours.
Yeah, because Anthony and I didn't get into this to make money, but earning money is a result of passion that we put into this, right? So I don't say I want to make X amount of dollars. I just try to work really hard at what I want to do, and I know the rest of that stuff will work itself out.
This has zero to do with making money at all. Because we're in trouble if this is how we're going to make money.
No,
this is about bringing people like him on, and it was an honor. So 2 hours and 36 seconds, my friend. Good job, and I'm blessed to know you and humbled as always.
Bless you, and make sure you check out Anthony's show on Facebook. But he's going to be a little bit late because I got to talk to him a little bit off the air about some stuff. So thank you guys for being here. We will check you tomorrow, and this one's for you, Anthony. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, Jerry.